Hello, I'm Stuart Wolpert. Thank you for joining us. So first I want to mention that next Wednesday we've got a terrific program for you right here at 1:30 about mindfulness and how mindfulness can improve our lives with Professor Sarah Meltzer. You're all invited. I think it's going to be very interesting. So mindfulness next Wednesday, world travel today. And we've got a really good program for you. Are you considering a vacation to Japan, Iceland, Italy, Costa Rica, maybe a river cruise, an African safari? Well, UCLA has more than 70 travel options for you for this year alone, worldwide trips with fellow Bruins. And to tell you about these vacations, we have Christel Aragon and Dolores Dyer. Now, Christel is Director of UCLA Alumni Travel at the UCLA Alumni Association, and Dolores is Director of Travel for the UCLA Retirees Association. Christel has traveled to more than 100 countries. She has more than 30 years of experience in the travel industry, often serving as host of the tours, including the kinds of trips she'll be telling us about, making sure everything goes smoothly. UCLA Alumni Travel has more than 50 tours a year. About 1,200 people a year go on these tours, maybe 1,300 this year. UCLA Alumni Travel has been offering these trips since 1941. Dolores serves on the board of the UCLA Retirees Association. She serves as chair of the Retirees Association's travel committee, and she's traveled extensively as well. So I'm really happy to both of you, and I'm looking forward to your insights on travel. So Christel and Dolores, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
And so the first thing I want to ask you is, why do you love to travel?
Sure, well, for me it's always been about expanding my horizons. I grew up in cold Stockholm, Sweden, so you had to travel to get out and explore, and I've had the great pleasure of working at UCLA for over 30 years now, and I've been in alumni travel the whole time. I mean, to learn about different cultures and people and the natural beauty in the world, I mean, I just don't think there's anything better than that. And I still get immense just pride and pleasure when a traveler comes back and they said they had the trip of a lifetime on one of our trips. So that's really what fuels me after all these years, is just creating these experiences for our travelers around the world.
How about you, Dolores? Why do you love it?
Well, first of all, I have to thank you, Stuart and Christel, for having me here, and thank you all for showing up, and I see my fellow board members here. First of all, I have to say I am in awe of all the things that she has done. For what I do, I'm a volunteer with the UCLA Retirees Travel Association, and I serve on the board of UCLA UCLA as their travel chair. I am a museum and a church junkie. I love going abroad. I mean, just give me that museum pass and I'm gone for the whole day. I love meeting the different people, getting to know them. It's always fun, because when you travel abroad, things never seem to change. I mean, we live in an atmosphere here in the U.S. where things are changing all the time. You go over there and you go back in a year and it's still the same buildings, the same thing. So I enjoy meeting the people. I'm bilingual, so I enjoy going to countries where I can speak Spanish. And it's just generally fun. It's just fun to see things that you can't see here and to go back twice. But like I say, I'm in awe of what Christel's done with her life and travel. I'm impressed.
It's a wonderful life. What are the benefits of traveling with a tour group rather than on your own?
Okay, I can start. So it's an easy way to travel, because all the arrangements have hopefully been made for you. You have travel professionals. It's their job to create good tours. I spend a lot of my time vetting the tour operators that we work with to make sure that they have the financial background, that they know what they're doing, and that they have been in business for quite a while, and I check the references with other schools. Of course, there has to be a well-balanced itinerary that you're going to see and experience. You'll have access to behind-the-scenes things that you couldn't do on your own. That you have the best tour directors on site. Usually we like to work with tour directors that are from the country we'll be visiting. So if you're going to France, you have a French tour director. I think that adds to the experience. And just really the local experts that we have access to as well on site. And with UCLA Travel, we try to put UCLA professors on approximately half of our tours. So in addition to having the on-site experts, you have that other additional bonus of traveling with one of our faculty members.
And what would you say about the benefits of travel?
Well, the benefits of travel with the UCLA retirees is you're traveling with Retirees, people that you know, whether you know them from other campuses or from your campus that you worked at. I've been on a few trips. My career at UCLA was in public relations, and I've run into people who say, well, I remember seeing you walking down the aisle of the hospital, so we send an escort, which is also as a retiree. They come along to make sure that things are going well. They work with the main tour operator. And it's just making sure that you're having a good time. Like that old Cyndi Lauper song, girls just want to have a good time, but we want retirees to have a good time. So this person comes along with you, make sure you're enjoying yourself if there's any kind of problem. Now we do send out an app before you go, which asks you where you retired from, what are your hobbies, what do you like to do, and when the trip comes close, we send that along to the escort and the tour operator so they know something about everybody who's on the trip. And that makes it a lot more fun to get together and have dinner and talk about things like that. But like I say, we're all volunteers. I'm a volunteer. I'm waiting for my what do you call it, the COLA, which is never going to come because I'm a volunteer. Everybody who works on the Retirees Travel is a volunteer. And we all enjoy it. We enjoy planning it. We enjoy getting together with the people beforehand. We do a lot of pre-trip Zooms. And it's just getting together with people. Now, one thing we did start is saying, instead of just retirees, we've decided to invite friends and families. Because nothing worse than going to that big Thanksgiving dinner and say, you'll never guess I'm going on this fabulous trip with the UCLA Retirees group, but sorry you can't go because you're not a retiree. So we decided to invite friends and family, which has made it great. Invite friends and family to come along, and it's turned out lots of fun.
So I just wanted to add to that, in addition to UCLA Alumni Travel, it's open to family and friends as well as neighbors or anyone else who've heard anything good about our program. So it's not just for alumni. So I just wanted to add that as well.
So you told us the benefits of going on a tour rather than going on your own. And what about the benefits of going through UCLA Alumni Travel, UC Retirees Travel, rather than just booking it directly through a tour company?
Well, I'll take that one. It's because we make it cohesive that it's friends and family. You know, we know that you're a retiree. We want to know where you retired from. People who are traveling by themselves, they find it a lot easier to travel with us because, you know, you may be a woman traveling by yourself or a man traveling by yourself, and you say, oh, you know, I came from UCLA or came from Irvine. You know, we connect you up with the people, and it's a lot more fun. You have a good time. You're traveling with people you know. And what's interesting is that I've been on about 4 or 5 trips, and I'm getting to have my little groupies of people who had a good time. They went on a safari, and now they're going to go on a trip to Costa Rica. And people who kind of followed the trips along because they had a good time. So that's what makes it fun and interesting for UC Retirees Travel.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to us. We have a lot of camaraderie that develops on our tours. People come back and they become lifelong friends. They travel together on other tours. We have reunions on many of our tours as well, when people get together after a tour to share photos and memories, etc. But I think another benefit of traveling with us is just the peace of mind. You have a well-established tour company and UCLA behind you if something goes wrong. And I'll use the uprising in the spring of 2010 that happened in the Arab world as an example. Odysseys Unlimited, a company that we work with, we had 6 tours on the ground in Egypt when this happened. And within 24 hours, they had all the travelers out of Egypt, and within 48 hours, they were home, right? So these are the kind of companies you want to travel with, especially into those areas that might seem a little bit more uncertain, to know that you're well taken care of. So we always stand behind you. We're there. Doesn't mean we can always fix everything, but we're going to always try. So it's traveling with peace of mind. I think it's important as well.
Yes, it is. How many people are on a tour, and are they mostly affiliated with UCLA and UC?
For me, they're most, I would say 75% of the people are retirees. I would leave the 25% are friends and family. And they basically, we do so many pre-trip Zooms and get-togethers so that people know who they are. And that's the important part. We want people to come back and travel with us again because, you know, they met this person, like somebody brought it up before, the people, or Christel had brought it up before, people getting together after the trip for dinners, after the trip for lunch. And we try and make it just user-friendly, you know. We have trips that go from 15 people We have different, our partners are Overseas Adventure Travel, Premier Travel, I manage with Colette. We can have travelers that up to 25, 30 people, small group travel at 15. And I've been on the big ones, I've been on the small ones, and everybody's just, enjoying themselves, having a good time.
Yeah, and for us, I would say that all our land tours, they're right around 24 travelers, and they're usually UCLA exclusive. We can fill those ourselves, and that makes a difference that it's just UCLA alumni, friends, and family. Of course, if you're going on a river cruise or big ship cruise, the groups might be, larger, 25 to 40 or so, but we always have that camaraderie on board the ship with cocktail parties and lectures, etc. We only market to the UCLA community, so you're not going to find an ad in LA Times or anything like that. It's just anyone, alumni, friends, family, retirees, etc., etc. So.
And how long are the trips? Are they mostly a week or two?
I would say it's between 7 and 14 days, with the average being around 10 days, so like 2 weekends and a week in between. But then we have some extended weekend trips if you just want to get away from something shorter. And if you're going to Australia, New Zealand, you actually need 3 weeks, right? So, but the average, I would say, is around 10 to 12 days. And then you have the pre-trips and the post-trips. If you're going on a Rhine cruise, you might want to extend to Berlin. And then also these days, a lot of our travelers are extending or going in early on their own because you're already there. So why not make the most out of it? So.
We do about the same. Like she says, we have the pre-trips and the post-trips. Most of the trips are about 10 days, 14 days. Our trip to Australia, which is just last day before yesterday, that's 21 days. In that booklet that I gave you, we have a big trip coming up at the end of the year. That's 21 days, the Kingdom to Southeast Asia. And I would say most people just do the basic trip, which is 2 weeks, 10 days, 3 weeks. Some people who have more time, they'll do the 4-day or 3-day post-trip or the 3 or 4-day pre-trip. But they're usually run about, I would say, 2 weeks. A short trip is maybe 5 to 10 days, and that's on a locale that's not too far away. We don't like to have you fly all the way to Europe and say you're going to be there for 5 days and you have to turn around and come back. So I would say the trips abroad, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that.
Are these upscale tours, 4-star hotels?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say we want our travelers to be comfortable, so most of the properties that we use are 4-star and some 5 stars, probably more 4-star than 5 stars, but there's a time and place 5-star properties come into play, and I'll use Machu Picchu as an example. When you're going there, we stay at the Belmont Sanctuary Lodge, which is the only hotel right at the gates of Machu Picchu. So in addition to the ones, usually visit that you have to Machu Picchu, this now allows you to do a sunset hike in the park when no one else is there. It also allows you to be the first one at the gate at sunrise and really have Machu Picchu to yourself before all the trams start to make their way up from Aguascalientes. So there is a time and place when you do want to spend a little bit more on the right property at the right place. So we do, when that makes sense. So.
I concur. Ours are usually 4 to 5 stars. Now, when we were on safari, we were there in the jungle. I don't know what you call that, 4-star, 5-star, 2-star. But they were mostly 4 stars, 5 stars when we were in Johannesburg. It takes a lot for me to say what a wow of a hotel. Our first hotel was absolutely magnificent. But like I say, when you're in some of these, like she mentioned Machu Picchu, when you're in some remote places, I think we go past 4 and 5 stars. Is it got everything it needs to make you happy? But I would say ours are 4 and 5 stars also.
And how much free time is there on the trips?
On free time, that's an interesting topic. Usually our locales are 2.5 days, 3 days. But we're trying to emphasize to people, even though you're busy, you're like on a 3-week trip. The whole idea is it's called, a vacation. It's not, I told them we don't pass out trophies for endurance. Our last trip when we were in Greece and we climbed up to the Parthenon, I can't remember what it was. I told everybody, if you don't want to climb it, there's no trophies for the people who do. There's no trophies for the people who don't. And I've told people, sometimes you just need a me day. I've been on trips where I've taken a Dolores Day and say, I'm just going to go to the spa. I'm going to take it easy. We just want you to have a good time and not wear yourself out. So there are going to be down times or the day that maybe you just have an activity in the morning and you'll have an afternoon that's free. But we always encourage people to just take it, if this is the day for you, this is going to be your Dolores Day.
Yeah. No, I concur with that, and I think there's been a change and a trend over the last couple of decades. It used to be very inclusive, but when the baby boomers came to age and started traveling, they wanted just more, time on their own and want to make their own decisions. So we have really, as an industry, adhere to that. And for example, if you get into Vienna, it used to be, here's the highlights of Vienna tour. That's not how it's done anymore. They could be, here is the highlights of Vienna tour, here's the culinary tour of Vienna, and here's the more active tour when you can get on an electric bike and bike, right? So there's a little bit of everything, because we don't all like the same thing. And there's always have to be some time for retail therapy, so some free time for that, and sometimes I just want to sit and read a book and do people watching. So just what Dolores says, it can't be on the go from 8 o'clock to 5 p.m. There needs to be time for just you to do what you want to do as well.
I agree with that. Tell us who's eligible to go on the trips. Christel, does at least one person have to be an alumnus, and Dolores, does at least one person have to be a UCLA retiree, and then they can bring friends and family?
No, so you don't. We're a public university. We're open to anybody. We actually have a lot of travelers from other UC schools that have smaller travel programs that may not have as many tours planned. But the requirement that we have is that one person in the traveling party is a sustaining donor, and it's $100 a year to be a sustaining donor. But it's one person out of a party of 1 or a party of 10, right? So, and anything in between. That's the only requirement that we have.
So that person does not need to have a UCLA connection?
Right, but most people do, but yes.
Okay.
Well, there's no requirements on UC Retirees Travel because 100% of the people who are UC Retirees travelers. And like I say, they bring along the partner. Not too many people are partnered with somebody who worked in the UC system. They bring along their partner. We had a few people bring their adult children, but there's no requirements. That's it.
Okay, so for today's program, in addition to my asking questions and at the end of it you asking questions, I'm going to give each Dolores and Christel 15 minutes or so to talk about some of this year's tours. So Dolores will go in a bit, and right now, Christel, could you tell us about some of this year's tours?
All right, so I'm going to give you a little overview about 6 trips that we offer with UCLA Alumni Travel. And I'm going to start with Japan. So Japan is one of the last countries to open up after the pandemic. They were closed for the longest. So it can be done as a land tour or cruise. I think it's best done as a land tour. We do this tour with Odysseys Unlimited, which some of you may or may not have heard of. It's the big booklet on the table back there. But they're a fantastic company based in Boston. We were actually their first client when we started operating back in 1998, so we're very proud of that. But so Odysseys tour in general, they tend to move a little bit. Every 2-3 days, you're on the move. So on this Japan land tour that we have, you go to Tokyo, Hakone, Takayama, Kanazawa, and Hiroshima. You get a really good idea of Japan. You also get to stay in a traditional ryokan, a traditional inn, where you have to remove your shoes before you enter. You dress in a traditional robe for the complete stay. You get to try a Japanese meal. You get to sleep on a futon, which is actually not that uncomfortable. And then you have to soak in the springs. And even on your balcony of your property or your hotel is your own private bathtub with the hot waters from the springs. So people really enjoy that. Then we have a lot of hands-on opportunities on this trip. We do traditional washing paper. You learn how to make paper the way it's been done since the 7th century. We meet with calligrapher Kosuma Masanaga, who made the 1998 Japan Olympics posters, if you remember those with the big strokes. I mean, they were beautiful. And then, of course, we participate in a traditional tea ceremony. So those are just some of the activities that happen on this Japan trip. And I've never felt safer anywhere in the world, and I've now traveled to 107 countries as I did in Japan. So even if you're thinking about going on your own, I highly encourage you to do so. I was just amazed at how pleasant everyone was in Japan and how they took such pride in everything they did, no matter what their profession was. And of course, the bullet trains are amazing, incredibly fast. They pull in and they're out of there in 60 seconds. I mean, it's just amazing. The next tour concept I want to talk about is our Alumni Campus Abroad. And this is done with a company called AHI Travel out of Chicago. They've been around for 64 years now. And these are very well-priced tours. The difference here is that you unpack once and stay put. So instead of moving every 2-3 days, you get to really immerse yourself in the destination, so they're slower paced. So I'll use Sorrento as an example, or the Amalfi Coast as we call this trip. You stay right in the city, heart of Sorrento. You have all the cafes and restaurants and shopping right there. And then you do J Drive down the Amalfi Coast, down to Positano. You'll visit Pompeii, Naples, the island of Capri. And people really enjoy that because it's a little bit more of a vacation when you can just relax a little bit more. Some other popular campus abroad tours that we offer is Andalusia. We stay in a parador, in a historic lodging outside of Malaga. And of course then we visit Ronda, Granada, Sevilla, and Cordoba. In 2025, we're going to bring back Apulia, which is at the booth of Italy on the Adriatic side. And this is a fantastic tour. I did it myself about 8 years ago. And then also Italian Lake District. There's nothing wrong with going to Italy, but every other trip I do, I wouldn't mind going back. We stay in Stresa, and then of course that's close to Lake Como, Bellagio, and all the other wonderful cities around that area. Next, I want to talk about a truly once-in-a-lifetime trip, which is Antarctica. Okay, this is amazing. And there are very strict rules in Antarctica due to the Antarctic Treaty. No more than 100 travelers can be ashore at one time. That's why usually you only see smaller vessels down there. And with UCLA Alumni Travel, we've sold this trip now for the last 18 years, and I have never had a traveler come back from this destination that didn't absolutely love it. The season in Antarctica is very short, from the middle of November to end of February. We usually have a very strong educational component on this trip. In addition to the professor that we bring, we have Peter Narens in January, and Dan Blumstein is going in December. We have professors usually from other universities, and then there's the naturalists on board from the ship as well. Now, in order to get to Antarctica, you have to pass the Drake Passage, which is some of the roughest seas in the world. And I've done it twice, and it's rough. But obviously, you know, the ships have, you know, stabilizers, and the captains, they know it's coming, so the best thing to really do is just to go lay down. But I'm very excited, in December this year, we're going to actually fly to Antarctica. So there's a new tour with Lindblad Expedition that we have chartered flights from Puerto Natales in Patagonia in Chile. And we're flying down to Antarctica, so the ship is just waiting for you. You do Antarctica, and then you fly back. So we already have almost 40 travelers booked on this trip. But what do you see when you get to Antarctica? Well, I always feel like I'm on a different planet. It's just absolutely amazing. You see thousands and thousands of nesting penguins, you know, the chinstrap and the gentoo and the adelays. You see 6 different types of whales. There's these icebergs as you cruise down and around with your zodiacs. You'll have, you know, the different fur seals and elephant seals. And there's also hiking opportunities. So it is expensive. It is truly a trip of a lifetime, but if you can do it, I highly, highly recommend it. Then I'm going to talk a little about river cruising. It is a very easy way to travel. You unpack once, and you cover a large area. Some of the river cruises that we offer, Dutch waterways in the springtime, when all the tulips are blooming around Amsterdam. Then we have the very popular Rhine and Moselle River, the Seine River in France, starting in Paris and cruising its way up to Honfleur. And then, of course, you'll have all the history with the D-Day. And then holiday markets is very popular in early December when you go to all the holiday markets in Germany and France. You stay on board the ship. So for an example, I'll use Danube River that we do every year and sell very well. We have Professor Tia Ruiz from history joining us in May. The trip starts in Bulgaria, in Sofia, and then it cruises its way up through 8 different countries and ends in Prague, in the Czech Republic. So it's a really easy way. You unpack once and you get through all these different countries. Now, river cruises, as you know, these are very long, narrow ships. They hold about 120 to 150 travelers. But it's a really, really good value. You have all your accommodations, your meals, and excursions for that one price that you pay. And also, if there's any solo travelers in here, meaning people that like to have their own cabin, these river cruises do offer quite a few solo cabins without a single supplement, but they go fast. So, but they are available. All right, then I'd like to cover another sort of natural history tour, and that is the Galapagos Islands, which is my all-time favorite. I have been 5 times. I'll go again. It was the first UNESCO site back in 1978, and of course this was here in 1835 that Charles Darwin inspired the theory of evolution. There are 13 main islands, and on most cruises you'll get to 6 or 7 of them. It's just a short 2-hour flight from Ecuador to the Galapagos Islands. And really the best way to experience Galapagos is by ship, so don't go there and stay in a hotel. So what makes it so special? Well, the animals aren't afraid of you. So spoiler alert, you'll never go to a zoo and feel the same way again, because you could just walk right next to the animals and they don't care. So you can swim with sea lions when you snorkel, get very, very close to the nesting birds. And just like Antarctica, there are very strict rules, which is good. When you're out hiking and sightseeing, you're with a naturalist, and there's no more than 10 people in the group, because they have to have those rules. You'll see marine iguanas, land iguanas, and then you have zodiac rides where you get close to dolphins and whales, lots of snorkel opportunities, hiking opportunities. And it's really a destination that you can go to all year round. It's right on the equator. The waters are a little bit warmer in the spring, which is nice, but it doesn't really matter when you go. And again, this is another destination that I've never had a traveler come back and say, I didn't like it. So. And then the last trip I just like to end with is our Oregon Shakespeare Festival, if there's any Shakespeare fans in the audience. So this is just an extended weekend up to Ashland, Oregon. It's one of the largest nonprofit theater companies in the country. It was founded back in 1935, and we've been operating trips here for the last 30 years. And this trip we do 100% in-house, no vendors. We'll include 3 plays. And of course, you have the option to do other plays on your own. There's a Shakespeare expert with us, Stephen Dickey from the Department of English. And in addition to that, we'll do deck boating on the Rogue River. We'll do a behind-the-scenes tours of the theaters. We'll do a discussion with an actor. And we stay at the Ashland Springs Hotel, which is right there in town, and literally a 2-minute walk to the 3 different theaters. And there's still space on the trip in June, so consider joining us. Okay, thanks.
Well, that's really, really insightful and interesting. Thank you very much, Christel. And a couple of questions on those. Can you tell us a bit about the UCLA lecturers on the tours? I mean, these are UCLA professors, right? You mentioned Peter Narons and Dan Blunstein. I know both of them. They're both distinguished professors of biology.
Yeah.
But what's their role?
Yeah, well, actually, I think I saw Sarah Meltzer's name on. Yeah, so I've been working with her for the last 8 years. So they're there just really to enhance the tour. I mean, all the logistics are left to the company. And then we plan 2 or 3 talks that this professor that will tie into the destination, right? So, Stephen Dickey, he does 3 lectures on Shakespeare, because I mean that makes sense for that destination. And then we'll have a Dan Blunstein talking about his research and birds or whatever it might be that in the Galapagos, right? So they're really popular. A lot of them have followers. As you know, I mentioned Theo Ruiz on our Danube trip. He's from the Department of History. I literally can send out an email to his past travelers and fill a tour. I mean, that's how beloved he is. They really, really add. This is an initiative that I started about 25 years ago. I literally went knocking on the doors of a bunch and around just to kind of get faculty involved. But now we've gotten to a point where they hear about the program and they want to work with us. And a lot of Emeriti faculty actually, which is great because they have all the time in the world. So versus if they're teaching and et cetera. So yeah.
And before I turn back to Dolores, tell us a little bit about the cost of the trips and how you would describe the value of them compared with the non-UCLA.
Well, I mean, we don't cost in our professors or hosts. I mean, all space is earned. So you're not gonna, if you buy say an Odyssey's retail tour, you're not gonna spend more to travel with us.
I see.
But I'm always looking for the value more than just being inexpensive, right? I want you to have a good experience, a good quality experience. And again, be there with the right people in case something were to happen. You pay for that. That doesn't come free, right? So value is what I'm looking for versus just being inexpensive. So.
And you said the hotels are very nice, 4 stars.
Usually 4 stars, some 5 stars, correct?
Right. Okay, Dolores, so why don't we turn it over to you and let you tell us about some of the
Thank
upcoming
you.
trips.
You may wonder, Dolores is a volunteer, so what happens? Do we make any money? What happens to the money that we make on these trips? Well, all of our profits go to the Council for the University of California Retirement Association. Have I got that right, John? John's our treasurer. And all the funds go to the benefit of enhancing healthcare for our retirees. The money goes back to all the 10 campus retiree association, putting together meetings for them, enhancing there is a retirement association in every one of the campuses. Some, of course, like this one is quite big, some are smaller, but we're trying all the time to get them to do more for the retirees. Am I on the right path, John? John's nodding his head, he's the treasurer. And that's what we want to do. All the fun, we work with Colette, I primarily work with Colette Travel, we work with Overseas Adventure Travel, we work with Premier. Now I've had a few people ask me here, going to Cuba. Premier is the travel agency that gets us into Cuba. For every 11 people that go, we'll get one person that gets to go for free, and that's the escort. It's an all-exclusive fees in our organization. That means the air, the travel, everything is all included, and the escort goes along with you. With that, bear in mind, we get that many people, that escort goes along with you. But we have about, let me just see, I gave you on that handout, what I wanted you to see is a couple of the trips that we have. Some of our trips sound similar to Christel's. I guess we all tend to go to the same locale. The next one coming up is Alpine Lakes and Trains. What I try to do is give people an idea of what the itinerary is. And an interesting thing I'd like to give people is the hotels. I've had so many people say, well, where am I going to be staying here? Where am I going to be staying there? I always try to give people an itinerary of where you're going to be going and what hotels you're going to be staying at. Now, for 23, we did 11 trips. Business got better, and in 24, we're doing 15. In 25, we added 2 more, so now we're doing 17. People really, really like the way we put them together. The escort is the person who connects with people. We send a welcoming letter. We have the trip put together. The trip going on right now is the trip to Australia and New Zealand. We send out an information letter saying, hi, we're so glad you're joining us. This person's going to be on your escort. These are all the things that you need to make your life happy. Make sure your passport is up to date. The COVID was going on. My God, we had additions about the COVID. And we do Zooms about 2 or 3 times. We just want, because they're retirees and traveling from different locales, we want people to get to know one another. And I can tell you, it's all working. We get people to repeat again and again and again. The trip that we're coming up at the end of the year is also involved in your handout, the Kingdoms of Southeast Asia. I'm the escort on that one. It's a 21-day trip. I put it together. I said, we try to do is ask different people who go on their trips, where do you want to go? Other than to get the rocket ship with Mr. Bezos, that's out of the realm. We've had a few people ask for strange things, but we want to make sure that we're putting together trips that people want to do. And one of them said, this trip. Well, so far we've got 21 people. Now, I am a firm believer that I don't want to have people on, I don't want people on waiting lists. You want to go on this trip, you don't want to say, I'm on a waiting list. We now opened it up to having a second trip, and we've got, Colette, very nice, put this together for us. We've got a spot for 16 people, so far, we've got, if all this trip works out, we'll have close to 40 people going on this trip. And the only reason we got the second trip put together is that I said 2 or 3 people were on a waiting list, and I called Colette. I said, no, you see the retirees, we don't want waiting lists. We want people to actually go. So like I say, I'm the person who works with Colette. Sue Barnes is our administrator. I'm the assistant administrator. She works with Overseas Adventure Travel. And I'm sure there's people here who've traveled with OAT. They tend to have smaller trips. And the people like traveling, which is maybe 15, 16 people. Then you get the people that just came back from Greece, and we had 40 people. So people I'd ask, what do you think? Oh, is it 40? Is it 15? Everything depends on the tour guides. I'm always on the ones that are larger. And I can say this, that those tour guides, we had 38 on the trip to South Africa. They could have handled 20. These people are, these people are absolutely fantastic. And that's, I would say, because you have a handout that tells you pretty much, coming up in 25 is our trip with Italian Vistas. We're going to go, once again, we're going to go to Rome, we're going to see the Colosseum, we're going to Pompeii, like she mentioned, Lake Maggiore, Stressor, there's similar places that we go to. But it's really been absolutely eye-opening at how many people want to travel with us. They, like I say, they like the idea of the retirees, and you mentioned the cost. That's an interesting. The cost, I would say, it just depends because you have insurance. A lot of the companies, you have the insurance, and there's something, if there's catastrophic, oh well, maybe they'll give you a reimbursement as a voucher. And working with Colette, which was very nice, Colette Travel, you pay the insurance, and if something comes up, even down to the last minute, you know, you went and got a bad hair day and you don't want to go, as long as you pay the insurance, they'll refund you for the whole entire trip, which not too many companies do that. And that means they'll reimburse you in the amount and the way in which you paid for the trip. But like I say, it's been absolutely amazing at how many people want to travel with us. It started out very, very small. It's gotten bigger. I've only been at this is my second year. And I'm just impressed with the people who want to travel again and again. They like the idea of having the escort. Now the escort is there in support of the main tour, the tour guide. You know, they're at the airport, they'll handle the front end of the trip, the escort will handle the back end of the trip. When I was in South Africa, I was at the back end of the trip, and lo and behold, somebody's CPAP machine wasn't where it was supposed to be. So, you know, we have things that go on. We just interviewed to acquire 2 more escorts. And one of the ladies retired, said, my God, the interview was longer than when she became, you know, took on the position that she had retired from the University of California, Irvine. But we just want to make sure that people understand you're there in support of the retirees. You're there to have a good time. You're there to make sure that problems are solved or problems are avoided and to work with the tour guide. But it's been so much fun. People are so interesting to work with. The staff that we have now we have 5 escorts. There's Sue and I. We have 2 bilingual escorts, myself and another gentleman. And I can't tell you, it's a barrel of fun to work with everybody. And the people traveling are absolutely fantastic.
And do you want to highlight a few of the upcoming tours?
Well, I gave everyone the one that's interesting is that it's Alpine Lakes and Trains. You're going to be going to Zurich. You're going to be going on the Glacier Express train, Zermatt, Lake Maggiore. It's about a 12-day trip. There is a discount on that trip, and I think I gave it to everybody in the handout, and that expires on Monday. And then the trip after that is the trip that I mentioned, the Southeast Asia trip. We still have room on that one, so the trips are fantastic.
And is there anything more you want to say about the cost compared with if people were to book it through a non-UCLA?
I would think that, you know, like Christel said, you know, I'm sure it's compared to other companies that are out there. But we give you that special retirees truck, you know, what can I say? That retirees feeling that, you know, you're going to be with people who are, you know, care about you, want you to know if you have a good time, if you want to repeat it, you know. One instance that I was telling people, you know, this is our first time that we've done something in person. Everything is in Zoom. So we have a document meeting where we talk about where you're going to go, if your passport, if you got your ticket, all this, that, and the other. Then I tell people, well, I'm going to meet you at the airport. Well, you know, seeing you in person and seeing you on Zoom is a whole different thing. So I've told everybody, I put on my UCLA sweatshirt, and I go to the gate, and I talk to the person that's standing there, like from Delta, and telling them, I'm waiting for people, do you mind if I just hang out here? You know, sure, so like, bingo. Everybody says, it's got to be the lady from the UCLA sweatshirt. It's worked out really good.
People make lasting friendships on these trips, don't they? Where they meet people and take future trips together.
It happens all the time, but yeah, that's I think the strength of the program. That first-time travelers don't expect that to be the #1 thing. They came back and loved about it. It's the friends and the camaraderie that developed. Yep.
Dolores talked about travel insurance. Christel, do you want to say something about travel insurance? Do you, if you buy travel insurance, can you cancel right before the trip if something comes up and get a refund?
Well, we saw a spike in insurance sales over the pandemic, obviously, because everyone was so concerned with traveling. What would happen if they got stuck somewhere, etc. It's starting to ease off, unfortunately, but it's such an important investment, just like Dolores mentioned. There is the cancel for any reason insurance. It's about 25% cost though, so I think it's pretty steep for what you're getting. But, you know, insurance is all based on age because more things happen as we get older. So it really looked at between 8 to 12% of the trip cost for insurance. That would give you a good, most people take it thinking they're gonna need on the trip, but actually where we see them being used the most is before. You go to pick up the mail and you fall on the sidewalk and now you can't go and you have an $8,000 investment. So I had horror stories of things that have happened out in the world, of course, and how easily, you know, kind of a simple medical thing can be $100,000. So it is important to have insurance, but really where we see people use it the most is something happens right before they're supposed to leave on a trip. Now they're in 100% penalty, calling us, we can't do anything. Everything's been paid on your behalf, so that's where insurance is really important.
Do you recommend it, or are you saying that?
Highly recommend
You do
insurance.
recommend it.
Highly, yeah.
And what would you say about the differences in benefits and drawbacks between the larger tours, 36, 40 people, and the smaller ones of maybe 20 or 50?
Yeah. Well, you know, years ago when I started, our normal group size was a bus. It was 46 travelers, and that's just what we all did. And that's not the trend anymore. Very few land tours or group tours are more than 24 travelers, maybe 28. People just don't want to travel with that many people, especially not after the pandemic. So we are maxed out usually at 28. Again, like I mentioned earlier, if it's a cruise, if it's a river cruise, it's going to be larger groups. But a land tour, usually no more than 24 or 28.
I would say it's about the same. Most people like to be on the ones that are 15. Like I said, I've been on the ones that were like, they can max out at 40. They usually end up to be like 36, 38. And I was a little dubious at first, wow, it's like 36, 38 people, you know. And the tour guide handled like it could have been 68. I was so impressed. I mean, this gentleman with going to South Africa and Greece, the tour guide had been doing this a long time, and I was just impressed at how well the tour guides could handle the larger. I only went because I wanted to say, well, what happens when you got 35, 40 people? I was impressed. The tour guides handled it outstanding. I didn't miss a beat. He knew everybody on the tour. He knew everybody to go. I mean, it was. I was impressed. But like I can't overemphasize, like she said, the insurance is very, very, very important because things happen beforehand. God forbid things happen while you're on the trip. I tell people all the time, as soon as something happens, you just keep those receipts. You got a receipt for this, you got a receipt for that. But a lot of people have companies. I'm sure Christel will say the same thing, that they go through, that they don't have to take their insurance. But the thing that's interesting is a lot of those companies, you're going to have the documentation, And what you want, if that's okay with you, like I tell people, if you have travel with an insurance company that's not with the tour group, make sure that as soon as you sneeze and got to get to go those Kleenexes, that you keep the receipt. And when we were high in COVID, you had to go to a clinic to get the COVID shot. So, it's imperative that you have some sort of insurance when you go on these trips. Wouldn't you say, Christel? Absolutely.
Tours have a reputation for moving fast. How much time do you spend in each destination?
Well, I mean, it depends on if you're doing an Odyssey tour that, you're moving every 2-3 days. That's one tour concept. Or like if you like to just unpack once and stay put, like the Alumni Campus Abroad, and then you have everything in between. So I would say usually at least 2 nights. It's very seldom that we see one-day stops unless you're on a river cruise.
Yeah, I would concur. And in my handout, you'll see that big trip going to Southeast Asia, I've given you the itinerary, I've given you the hotels, and it's usually 2.5, 3 days. Like I say, you want to have a good time, you don't want to have an endurance. But I included that one because that's our biggest trip that we're going to have so far. And you notice that it's 2.5 days to 3 days before you have to change the hotel.
Are there advantages to booking early or booking late? How far in advance do you recommend booking?
Oh yeah, absolutely booking early now. Revenge travel is still out there, and people just want to travel. So over half of our trips in 2024 are sold out already.
Wow.
People are booking now 2025. We have all of our
Wow.
tours up on our webpage and people are already booking. So, late bookings is a challenge for group travel because most space is released around 60 days and it's almost impossible to get someone booked within 30 days. But also cruising, if you want the least expensive cabins, you need to book that early. They tend to go first. And again, if you want any of those single cabins or rooms, they also go really, really fast. So you need to just plan ahead for that.
Yes, I concur that, and I tell people all the time, when I post on Facebook in our newsletter, if you see the trip, just call it up and say, I want to do it. And versus the people who call me 3 weeks, I had somebody the other day call me, we're having a big trip coming up, memorials of World War II, people who had family members who were over in France and England doing World War II, and they go, oh, my father and my father-in-law were over there, can I book it? And I'm like, oh my goodness gracious, because they're retirees, I try to give them, they go, okay, Dolores is going to work on this, and we were lucky we got them on there. But like I tell people, as soon as you see it, just call and say you want to book it, it's better. Last minute things, and I'm sure she will agree with me, the thing that's very expensive, you do it last minute, is the airfare. That's exorbitant, so I tell people when you book with Retirees Travel, tell them you're vegan, you want to sit in the aisle window, you want to do this, you want to do that, oh my gosh, if there's an opportunity for me to go business to first class, put me on that. I have people who've told me 3 weeks out, and do you think I'll be able to go business class? Oh, let me see, I don't think so. So I try to tell people, do it as soon as you want, put in all the little things because there's a list attached to our travel that tells you if you're vegan, if you want to sit in the aisle seat, if you want to go. We want to make sure you have a good time and you get what you want, and you get what you want a year and out rather than 3 weeks at a time.
Do you recommend global entry to get through airports faster?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's the best $20 a year you can spend. I was one of the first, round to get that, and it was quite hard the first time around. I had an in-person interview. I had to schedule it. I will say the renewal process 5 years later was very, very easy. But if you're going to get it and if you don't have it, get a global entry because that also gives you TSA pre, so that when you're flying domestically. Basically, when I land at LAX now, from the time I leave the plane to being done at luggage claim is less than 20 minutes because I just walk to the machine, it reads my face, and then I hear someone say, "You good, Christel?" and off I go. So if you don't have global entry, just do that. And one way to do it is actually if you arrive back from an international tour, now at LAX, at Bradley, there's a place right there you can go and apply in person, so you don't have to schedule. I believe they now do meetings on Zoom as well, but it's wonderful.
Oh, I agree. When that first came out, and I signed up, my husband and I signed up right away, and you're right, the biggest thing was going for that interview, which by the time they asked you 2 questions, you spent more time parking than you did on the interview. But like she said, they now have, if you come back from the tour, when I just came back from Greece, and you down this stairs, down that stairs, and by the time you get to the bottom, there's 200 people going over there, and at global entry, there was just me. And I'm like, oh my God, I got the right ticket. And like they say, Dolores Dyer, you're free to go. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's $200?
No, it's $100 for 5 years.
$100 for 5 years, and I think free without global is 85, right?
75, 78.
Yeah, so if you have, like I told people, it's better to go with the global than it is. And what's interesting is when you go on cruises, I know we're not at that topic, but when you go on cruises, sometimes you get to the cruise port and they have global entry. Who would have thought global entry in the cruise ship? But it's wonderful, it's worth the money. And then afterwards, I think you just do it online, right? I think I did it online.
But if you let it lapse, it's a problem. Then
Oh, yes.
Yeah, my girlfriend forgot about it and she had to start it over, and it's, not good.
Climate change is producing destructive weather in many locations. How do you determine when is the right time to travel to locations given concerns about weather?
Well, I work with excellent representatives from different companies, and they seem to know when is the best time of year to go South America or to go to South Africa or any place that you want to avoid when it's very, very hot. So most of the travel is done in October. But I work with people who seem to be very well aware of the climate in different parts.
Right.
of
It
the world.
seems to me now that Europe is probably too hot in the summer.
Sure.
Oh yeah, we would have gone to Europe anyways because of the crowds, but the problem is it used to be shoulder season was September, But now it can be extremely hot in September in Europe. So everything is changing. I mean, obviously you wouldn't go do a cruise in the hurricane season, but we had a cruise in Tahiti in early February and there was a cyclone, which is very unusual. But this is just the reality with climate change, that we can plan as much and we can be as smart as we can and do research, but at the end of the day, we just, things will happen, so, yeah.
Where can people learn more about your tours? Is there a website, an email list?
Oh, absolutely. So all of our upcoming 104 tours are on our webpage.
Wow, 104.
And it's alumni.ucla.edu/travel. Both myself and Henry's cards are on the table in the back there.
Say that one more time, Kristen.
Sure. alumni.ucla.edu, like education, /travel. And brew yourself a big cup of coffee and just sit and look at all the wonderful tours that are there, because even if you're not going with us, you can get some really, really good ideas. And I mentioned earlier, half of our 2024 tours are already sold out. People are now looking towards 2025 and looking for that, so.
Well, I'm giving, in my handout is a copy of our newsletter. That's the first thing that's in front. It tells you all of our upcoming trips. It tells you how to find us. Ours is CUCRA. Just put Mr. Google on there and then put travel and it'll come right up.
CUCRA.
CUCRA travel, CUCRA. You can put .travel or just travel and it comes up. And you'll see the newsletter, which is I gave you in the handout. And like I compare, a lot of the trips are sold out. And like I say, the one that's in November, I was shocked to know that one's sold out. We needed to put together a second one. But by email, most of the trips are going to come up with, much to my surprise, with my name, phone number, and email. So you can find me and I'll let you know whatever's going on.
And what advice do you have for travelers, besides the travel?
Just in general, I mean, to book early is what we talked about. I mean, this is group travel. You have to like group travel, obviously, to do this. If you're more independent and you just want to do your own thing, then do your own thing by all means. But you can still get ideas from what we have to offer. But I think it's just a wonderful way to see the world together with like-minded people. And the camaraderies and the friendship that I have seen develop over the years, now 30 years with all of our alumni friends and family, is just so wonderful. And I'm so blessed to have been part of this community for as many years as I have.
I agree with that. Dolores?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because just coming on from our Costa Rica trip, we had one lady who sent me an email and said she's never been on group travel. She's only traveled with herself and her husband. So, it kind of, the antennae went up on me, and I said, maybe there's a lot of people out there who don't say anything. So now we're going to access to people when we see the welcome letter. Are there any travelers who have never done group travel? My career used to be at UCLA, used to be in public relations, so I'm always, anybody who's coming up with an idea, I want to make sure everybody's having a good time. So we're now, reaching out to people and say, if you've ever traveled with people before, because it's different, like she says, if you make your hotel rooms, you call the cab, you go here, there, and the other. Now you're eating dinner with 20 people, and you're on a tour with 20 people. Maybe, maybe it's something you want to take off on a day and do shopping. But we like to find out what is it that people like and what they don't like. So we also, when you come back, we're going to send you a satisfaction. You're going to get one from the tour companies, might as well get one from UCLA Retirees Travel, to know if you had a good time and what would you like to see. What didn't you like? I'm always asking people, what didn't you like? Didn't you like this? Didn't you like that? Where can we make the improvement? But I was surprised when she mentioned that. There are people who've never done group travel. They've only done travel by themselves. So we're now highlighting that in our Getting to Know You letter. Have you ever done this before?
Those are my questions. Now let's hear yours. Who'd like to start? Thank you.
Did either of you have tours in the Middle East last fall? Someone who was supposed to go to Egypt?
I just had upcoming trips that a lot of people canceled, but we didn't have anyone on the ground, no.
We had a trip to Egypt in 23. Turned out quite well.
Did you ever go to Bhutan?
Yes. Have you been?
No, I want to.
It's a very tricky destination because the government, it's in Bhutan, they measure their success as a country in happiness. Isn't that wonderful? Instead of how much money they make. But because of that, the government bringing a lot of tourists is not really top priority. So it's extremely expensive to go there and hard. And most of the tour companies that I've worked in the past on Bhutan, they can't even get space anymore. So, but it is fabulous. I have been, and I highly recommend it if you can get there. It's very spiritual.
As far as mileage and credit cards, like American Express has travel insurance. Does it matter whether you use American Express or you just as long as you
We just want you to take insurance, whatever way you want to do it, so, yeah.
I saw a lot of trips include air travel. What if you're sitting on a couple million miles of airplanes and you don't need to fly, you know?
Okay, that's an interesting question, because I'm working on this now with 8 people who want to travel from Honolulu to Hanoi. And a lot of people have their own mileage. So our trips that we book are inclusive. It includes economy air. It's as included. It's on all inclusive. The food, the hotel, the airfare. But now, if you want to use your own, we welcome that. You can use you can do your own. Use your mileage. You just need to let the carrier know that you want to come in at the airport. You're going to have to pay to be picked up at the airport and taken back to the airport. No, we encourage that all the time because there's a lot of people, like I say, I'm dealing with 8 people now who have their own mileage. They want to do their own travel. You're not restricted to just traveling airfare with the company. You can say, I just want to use the land portion. There's the cost for the land portion, and then there's the cost of the inclusive that you use the airfare. But if you want to use your mileage, we encourage that. Tell people, just tell the person when you book it, I just want the land portion.
And for the operators that we work with that have also inclusive pricing, there's always a land-only option, so you can get there.
I presume you would recommend coming in a day early at least, so that we're waiting at the hotel when you
Especially if it's a cruise, correct? But it's always a good idea when you do your own air, correct?
Is 1 day enough these days to travel delays or 2 days?
Yeah, 2 days better, but 1 day.
We do the same thing. We encourage you to come in a day before because that's a killer flight. If you're coming in and you're doing a 12, 13-hour flight and you get there. I did that, and I got there, and my God, we're going to the big dinner. I told everybody when you get to the room, whatever you do, don't sit down on the bed because we're going to expect to see you all at the dinner. So we encourage people to go in ahead of time so you don't feel so exhausted when you're time for the trip.
I was just wondering, how close to the trip do you start sending out these notifications?
As soon as the trip is planned, and like say, we have 2 or 3 people, we wait till we've got about 2 or 3 people booked, and then we start sending out the welcome to the trip, what would you like to do, we try to keep track of who, at least this is what I do. I keep track of who's getting what email. Nobody wants to get repeated emails. But I think that's what's making our trip so successful, is it's the welcoming into the group. This is what you have to do. This person's going to be the escort. If I'm going to be the escort, I introduce you. And now we've added, when it gets time about a month out, we send everybody a tote. We send everybody a little thing for the luggage. And we just want it to be fun. We want it to be cohesive, that people want to come and travel with us again.
And we do something very similar with UCLA Alumni Travel, where we introduce the host and the lecturer. We have pre-departure meetings, Zoom meetings, where we get everyone ready for departure. So getting ready for the trip is just as important as enjoying the trip, right? So we want you to be ready for it. So.
What is your vaccination? What is the vaccination requirement? Depends on the country.
For what destination?
Vaccination.
Oh, for COVID?
Anything.
Well, it depends on the destination.
Okay, like Nepal.
Well, I couldn't, I would have to research that, it could change, but COVID, I can speak to COVID a little bit, maybe, so, it used to be, I think it used to be that all of our travelers had to be vaccinated and show proof of vaccination. That has now been relaxed, and now most of our tour operators only highly recommend that travelers are fully vaccinated and boosted, but it's no longer a requirement.
But I take it and tell people, that little card they gave you, I tell people bring it anyway. I was at the airport one time, and somebody, the customs person asked somebody and they didn't have it. So I tell people, it's a little card, clip it into your passport. Nothing's worse than being told you have that, because overseas, they just will say, okay, next. It's a lot different than it is here.
Or take a picture of it. Right?
That's right, take a picture, and if you've had, another thing that I bring up too to people, there's a lot of places you're going to go to that I've been where you need you need a vaccination, you need your malaria thing, always look into that. I am a travel person. I tell people, you have a travel doctor, just call them up, which I do, read them the itinerary, and they'll tell you if you need medicine for this, medicine for that. It's always better to err on the side of, I've got my malaria pills, I need this, I need that. Even though people will tell you some of these exotic diseases, they're like the flu, but nobody wants to be down on the trip. So that's what I tell people, go to the website. I've told a couple people, they say, oh, I'm glad you told me that. The travel people will tell you if you need it. Now, it may not be included in that you may not need something, but it's better to ask your travel doctor that, oh yes, I think you need it, rather than going there and having fun.
So if you're doing the European river cruises, are there sometimes when there's not enough water?
Yes, that's a problem with the environment, and then sometimes there's too much water, and we can't get under the bridges, and sometimes there's too little water, and we can't cruise. So this is something that we used to offer river cruises on the Elbe River. No company will touch the Elbe anymore, because there's always no water or too much water.
So the trip's canceled then?
Well, what they try to do is when that bridge, there's always one bridge that's a problem or one dock, then one ship will stop, everyone disembarks and get to the other ship, and then it's that those travelers take that ship and off they go in the different directions.
Wow.
So there's ways around it, but it's complicated. So.
Dolores, do you have a concluding comment for us?
No, but I know people who've had that happen.
No, but I mean overall.
Oh, the overall thing is that we have cruises. I'm the kind that's been on, the 5,000 people, and it never seems like you left land, and I went on a small ship cruising. We do offer those. I think we've got 2 of them on our schedule. If you've ever done that, it's absolutely fantastic, that it's, and I'm sure she will concur that small ships cruising is just so nice. I did a trip down for the Christmas markets in the Danube, and that was absolutely wonderful. So, welcome to UC Retirees Travel.
Christel, what are your closing comments?
Well, I just like to close with 3 things. And number 1 is that whenever you go, wherever you go on your next trip, so pack some flexibility, because no matter how much we all plan, something will happen. This is just the nature of travel. I also would like you to pack a sense of humor, because a smile goes a long way. No matter, even if you have a language barrier, you're somewhere in the world, you smile, and there's that human connection, right? And the last thing is to pack a sense of adventure. Do something that puts you out of your comfort zone. I mean, if it means climbing the 414 steps to the bell tower in Florence to get the view, it's worth it. Or try, salsa dancing in Cuba, in Havana, because it might not look pretty, but you'll remember it. So those kind of moments that really I live for, and I love to hear our travelers tell us about it.
Well, that's great advice. Christel, Dolores, thank you very much
You're more
for
than
the
welcome.
insights. Thank you for all that. Thank you for joining us, and if you're interested in mindfulness, Sarah Mel's here next Wednesday at 1:30.
Thank you.
Thank
That's our
you.
program. Thank you.